Hello and welcome back. My name is Colton from Ankeny Van Builds, and today I'm going to be going over all the reasons why initially I chose the Ram Promaster as my camper van of choice. Also, after 2 years of driving around with this van being my daily driver, all the things that I still really enjoy and really like about this van. So before we get started, listen, there's a lot of people out there making van content. If I want to be somewhat competitive amongst all these other van channels, the least you guys could do to help me out is by hitting the like button down below. Doesn't matter what the comment is, just leave something down below. It helps push my videos out to more people and helps my channel grow. So if you guys could do that for me, that would be awesome. I'd really much appreciate it, and let's start this week's video. So starting off with number one, the reason I chose the Ram Promaster, one of the reasons was how comfortable the driver and passenger side seats are. I noticed it on the first day when I started to test drive it, and over the course of 2 years on countless road trips, super long drives, these seats never get old. You never get sore, never feel uncomfortable while sitting in these seats for extended periods of time. They're really comfortable, super ergonomic, and they make long drives just so much better. And part of that reason is because the seats are so high up that you're actually sitting, it almost feels like you're sitting in an office chair or desk chair where your feet aren't kicked out in front of you. They're actually at a nice 90-degree angle. So that being said, over the course of time, you feel less fatigued, less uncomfortable while you are sitting in it for extended periods of time. So not only are the driver's seats comfortable, but the overall feel of how this van drives is also another reason why I chose the Ram Promaster. One of the most commonly asked questions I get from people is how it is being my daily driver, how I like it, and if it ever gets annoying. And quite frankly, the answer is no. I honestly enjoy driving this van around. It's got an extremely tight turning radius, better than most trucks that I've noticed. They're designed to be, you know, like Amazon trucks or cargo vans to be driven around cities and things like that. So honestly, the overall feel of how this thing drives is one of the biggest pros, I'd say, to the Ram Promaster. It fits in any regular parking spot. They're easy to parallel park. They don't take up quite as much room as some of the, like, say, the extended transits or the 170 Sprinters. As far as a cargo van goes, they're fairly compact, but there's still a ton of room on the inside, and they're tall enough to where you can have yourself a really nice build out without sacrificing too much of the difficulty of transitioning from a car to a cargo van. Now, one of the biggest reasons people buy the Ram Promaster that you'll hear if you watch any of these types of videos is the overall width of the Promaster is the widest compared to the rest of the vans. So that being said, it's about 6 foot 5 inches wide, making it possible for people who are a little bit taller to sleep side to side, and to where you can fit an RV sized mattress in the van. That was the main reason I bought it. Now, if I'm being quite honest, I'm 6'2". Sleeping side to side is a little bit difficult. You'll hear in a lot of van channels like saying anyone under 6'3" can sleep side to side in a Promaster, but nobody sleeps with their head touching the ceiling and their feet flat up on the floor. So I'd say 6'2" is about pushing it for the width sleeping side by side in the van. If you saw on my last build out, I created those bump outs on the side during the framing of it, and that extended the bed just long enough to where I felt, okay, I could comfortably sleep side to side on this without having to go diagonally at a weird angle. So it is possible. I didn't do that on this one. I wish I had. That's the main reason why people decide to pick the Ram Promaster, is due to the width of the bed. One of the biggest benefits of sleeping side by side is how much extra space it gives you in the back to install cabinets, seating area, other storage abilities. So if I had to sleep with the bed, lengthwise, it would cut out about 15 inches of the livable area up front, which might not sound like a lot, but in these vans, every single inch matters, and cutting out an entire foot just because you can't fit the bed side by side is quite a big deal. So that's why it's probably the most talked about and most mentioned feature of the Ram Promaster. Now, another great thing about the Ram Promaster is how cheap the maintenance is to do on it as compared to, say, the Sprinter. And I can't say this for certain, but from the research I've done and from different forums and different blogs, people mention that an oil change, a simple oil change for a Sprinter could be up to $200. Other maintenance, if you were going from town to town and you're traveling a lot, you will have no problem finding a Ram dealership or a Ford dealership, but it might be a lot harder to find somewhere that will do maintenance on a Sprinter because they need a certified Sprinter van mechanic to work on those. Whereas for me, I have a dealership that's right down the road. If I wanted to get my oil changed, I could do 3 oil changes for $90. I've had to take this van in once because the handle on the slider door, the cable snapped, and I brought it into them, explained what happened, and they just fixed it for free. It was covered under the warranty, and it was as simple as that. So I don't know if I had a Sprinter, if the story would have had the same outcome. I probably would have had to pay a little bit, but so that is typically a big reason why people go with the Ram Promaster, just for the ease of the maintenance of it. One of the biggest reasons why I pulled the trigger on this Ram Promaster is because it had the charcoal gray paint on the outside. And keep in mind, I bought this van 2 years ago, so all these different vans that are coming out now in the 2020 and the 2021 models, they're kind of stepping up their game, getting different colors, different things. But from what I remember in 2019 when I was looking for these vans, was 98% of them were white. And a big part of me just did not want a generic looking white camper van. So when I was looking at the differences between Transits and Sprinters and Promasters, I came into the Ram dealership. They had one van that was this dark charcoal gray, and I test drove it. I loved it, and I thought I might as well just pull the trigger because it might not be here tomorrow. And that's what happened. That's how I ended up with it. So having a different color other than white was huge for me. But from what I've noticed nowadays, I mean, Rams, I've seen different colors as far as white. I've seen just a straight black. I've seen this charcoal that I have. I've seen red, which is pretty sweet, and like a sand tan color. So they're stepping up their game with different color options coming out. And I know Sprinters have like a rhino blue, white, black, gray, and Transits are about the same. I've seen some cool Transits with like a darker gray and like a sand color. So I think all the van manufacturers now are kind of realizing people don't want just that standard white cargo van, so they're coming out with different color schemes. So back in 2019, which was, I guess, forever ago, that's why I decided to go with this one, because it was one of the only ones that I could find that was not just plain white. Now, one thing that separates the Ram Promaster from about all the other high roof vans that you can go with is this built-in overhead shelf. This thing's about 20 inches deep. It's the entire width of the van. It provides so much storage. You can see I have just a bunch of stuff, bulkier items up here that wouldn't quite fit in the drawer and doesn't really have a place underneath the bed. So it's a perfect addition up here. I've seen other vans where people have to build them themselves, and it's really awkward because you're dealing with the curves of the van and it's right above the door. There's not much surface area for you to attach certain things to, and to make it sturdy enough, it just seems like a very difficult process. So Ram Promaster's coming with this overhead shelf is a huge addition, makes the build out a lot simpler, saves you some time, saves you some effort. So big plus having this already built in. Now, one big feature that the Ram Promaster has that the other vans don't is that it's the only van that's front wheel drive. And since I live in Idaho, it snows here in the winter, I wanted something that would be a little bit more reliable in winter months. I didn't have the money for a 4-wheel drive Mercedes Sprinter, and at that time Ford Transits didn't have an all-wheel drive option. So it was kind of a toss-up for me between the Transit and the Promaster, and having the front-wheel drive Transit giving you a little bit better traction in the winter months, because the engine, the fuel tank, the drivetrain, all of that is right up there in the front. Weighing it down a little bit heavier up front, it just makes it driving in the snow a little bit more reliable than having a rear wheel drive system. So that being said, 2 years later, Ford Transit are coming out with all-wheel drive option, which is an excellent option, and I think they're making the right decisions, and they're really not that much more expensive. They're definitely cheaper than a 4-wheel drive Mercedes Sprinter. So if that's something that you need, absolutely need, I would consider giving Ford Transits a look with their 4-wheel drive option. But Ram Promasters with the front-wheel drive is still going to be cheaper than that, and a very, very viable option. So because the engine and the fuel tank and the drivetrain is all up front, you'll notice that Ram Promasters actually have the lowest profile of any of the other vans. That's because they don't have a long drivetrain that goes all the way underneath and into the rear of the van, giving it the lowest profile. And this is something that I really don't hear anybody talking about, and one of the biggest benefits I found to the Ram Promaster, which I didn't even consider when I bought it. I just noticed it after a while of driving it. And that is, it's about the only van that can fit into any standard drive-through. So most drive-throughs are about 9 feet and above. I get some of them are lower. I don't go through any drive-through that's less than 9 feet, but I can still go through most drive-throughs, and it's not something many people consider, and I definitely noticed it within the last year with most restaurants not doing indoor dining, and you got to do drive-through for most things. That would have been fairly inconvenient, having a van that wouldn't be able to fit and having to pull off into the side. And I don't know how you do it. Some places I guess you just couldn't go to, but having the lowest profile actually has been a very nice addition to the Ram Promaster, and just a little bit extra convenience when you're driving around. One of the things you'll notice with this van is actually the walls are probably the most straight. I can't say this for certain because I haven't worked on any other vans so far, but just looking at the vans compared to each other, you'll notice the Ram Promaster's walls are the most straight and the roof is the most squared off, making the framing process, the putting in the ceiling and the walls, all of those different things while building out a van, it just makes it a little bit more simple. Granted, it's not perfectly straight, so you still have to work around a lot of different things, but just having it squared off just that much more really does make a big difference and makes the van build a lot simpler, which is a main reason why I went with it. I had no experience when I built this one out, so I thought anything that I could do to make this learning curve less steep will probably help me out in the long run, and I was right, it did. So that being said, I think if it's your first van build and you want to start out with a little simpler of a template, the Ram Promaster would probably be a good piece of advice or knowledge to throw into your decision making on what van you want to decide from. So those are about all the reasons I could think of for when I initially wanted to buy this van and what I found out throughout the years of driving it. I'm not saying that it's any better or any worse than the other vans. I wouldn't know that objectively because I haven't quite driven those around. I think the other options are great, but for me personally, I love the Ram Promaster. I have zero regrets in buying this. For what I've needed it for and what I've used it for, it has been absolutely perfect. So on that end, I really don't have much else to say. However, with these newer vans coming out, like I kind of got my eye on the new Ford Transits with the all-wheel drive option. It just has a little bit more bells and whistles with these 2021 models. I've seen some of them have that adaptive cruise control, so if a car slows down in front of you, it'll slow down with it. It's got heated seats, a little bit taller of a roof, all-wheel drives. I might have my eye on one of those. I might want to build one of those out for myself one day. But for what it's been worth, I have loved the Ram Promaster. And if you're considering buying one, just know whatever van you choose, you will be so happy with it because it's going to be your van. You're going to take so much pride in it. So I know this decision, I know people are going to be watching this to help gauge their decision on whether they want a Promaster or any other type of van. So just know whatever van you choose, you're going to be happy with it and you're going to take so much pride in it because it's going to be yours. And I hope that my video pointed some things out maybe you didn't know and helped you make that decision. So if at any point I did help you out or I have helped you out, please, again, like my video. It helps my channel grow that much more. And if you're part of that 72% of people who watch my videos, enjoy my videos, but don't subscribe, listen, again, I've said it before, I'll say it again, I'm not mad. You just go down, there's a red button that says subscribe, a bell notification next to it. It's 2 clicks, you click both of those, and we'll be set. I won't be mad anymore. Before I end this video, back in my Q&A video, I talked about how my shop has been destroyed and a new house is being built in its place. So if you guys are interested in that, I'll give you a quick little tour. But on that, I'm gonna end this video here. Peace. So right here is where the shop used to be, and that's been demolished. We got all the concrete poured, these stem walls laid out, and then all of this lumber. So the framing should start this week coming up, but my new shop is going to be about twice the size, so it's going to start here and then go around, and this whole house is going to be 2 stories tall, and I think it's going to look awesome. So I'll keep you guys updated as it comes through.